The Death of a Government Clerk, written by Anton Chekhov. First published with the subtitle The Incident in Oskolki or Fragments, a Russian literary weekly, on July 2, 1883. Published in Motley Stories in 1886 without the subtitle. Collected in Love and Other Stories, published in 1922. One fine evening, a no less fine government clerk called Ivan Dmitrich Chervyakov was sitting in the second row of the stalls, gazing through an opera glass at the cloches de Corneville. He gazed and felt at the acme of bliss. But suddenly, in stories one so often meets with this "but suddenly." The authors are right. Life is so full of surprises. But suddenly his face puckered up, his eyes disappeared, his breathing was arrested. He took the opera glass from his eyes, bent over, and "Achee!" He sneezed, as you perceive. It is not reprehensible for anyone to sneeze anywhere. Peasants sneeze, and so do police superintendents, and sometimes even privy councillors. All men sneeze. Chervyakov was not in the least confused. He wiped his face with his handkerchief, and like a polite man, looked around to see whether he had disturbed anyone by his sneezing. But then he was overcome with confusion. He saw that an old gentleman sitting in front of him in the first row of the stalls was carefully wiping his bald head and his neck with his glove, and muttering something to himself. In the old gentleman, Chervyakov recognized Bruzhalov, a civilian general serving in the Department of Transport. "I have spattered him," thought Chervyakov. "He is not the head of my department, but still it is awkward. I must apologize." Chervyakov gave a cough, bent his whole person forward, and whispered in the general's ear, "Pardon, Your Excellency, I spattered you accidentally." Never mind. For goodness sake, excuse me. I did not mean to." "Oh, please, sit down. Let me listen." Chervyakov was embarrassed. He smiled stupidly and fell to gazing at the stage. He gazed at it, but was no longer feeling bliss. He began to be troubled by the uneasiness. In the interval, he went up to Bruzhalov, walked beside him, and overcoming his shyness, muttered, "I spattered you, Your Excellency. Forgive me. You see, I didn't do it too." "Oh, that's enough. I've forgotten it, and you keep on about it," said the general, moving his lower lip impatiently. "He has forgotten, but there is a fiendish light in his eye," thought Chervyakov, looking suspiciously at the general. "And he doesn't want to talk. I ought to explain to him that I really didn't intend, that it is the law of nature, or else he will think I meant to spit on him. He doesn't think so now, but he will think so later." On getting home, Chervyakov told his wife of his breach of good manners. It struck him that his wife took too frivolous a view of the incident. She was a little frightened, but when she learned that Bruzhalov was in a different department, she was reassured. "Still, you had better go and apologize," she said, "or he will think you don't know how to behave in public." "That's just it. I did apologize, but he took it somehow queerly. He didn't say a word of sense. There wasn't time to talk properly." Next day, Chervyakov put on a new uniform, had his hair cut, and went to Bruzhalov's to explain. Going into the general's reception room, he saw there a number of petitioners, and among them the general himself, who was beginning to interview them. After questioning several petitioners, the general raised his eyes and looked at Chervyakov. "Yesterday at the Arcadia, if you recollect, Your Excellency," the latter began, "I sneezed and accidentally spattered eggs." "What nonsense! It's beyond anything. What can I do for you?" said the general, addressing the next petitioner. "He won't speak," thought Shervyakov, turning pale. That means that he is angry. No, it can't be left like this. I will explain to him. When the general had finished his conversation with the last of the petitioners and was turning towards his inner apartments, Shervyakov took a step towards him and muttered, "Your Excellency, if I venture to trouble your Excellency, it is simply from a feeling, I may say, of regret. It was not intentional, if you will graciously believe me." The general made a lachrymose face and waved his hand. "Why, you are simply making fun of me, sir," he said as he closed the door behind him. "What's the making fun in it?" thought Shervyakov. "There is nothing of the sort. He is a general, but he can't understand. If that is how it is, I am not going to apologize to that fanfaron any more. The devil take him. I'll write a letter to him, but I won't go. By Jove, I won't." So thought Shervyakov as he walked home. He did not write a letter to the general. He pondered and could not make up that letter. He had to go next day to explain in person. "I ventured to disturb your Excellency yesterday," he muttered, when the general lifted inquiring eyes upon him. "Not to make fun, as you were pleased to say. I was apologizing for having spat at you in sneezing, and I did not dream of making fun of you. Should I dare to make fun of you? If we should take to making fun, then there would be no respect for persons. There would be. Be off!" yelled the general, turning suddenly purple and shaking all over. "What?" said Shervyakov in a whisper, turning numb with horror. "Be off!" repeated the general, stamping. Something seemed to give way in Shervyakov's stomach. Seeing nothing and hearing nothing, he reeled to the door, went out in the street, and went staggering along. Reaching home mechanically, without taking off his uniform, he lay down on the sofa and died. Okay, so the story ends with the death of a government clerk, as is the story's title, and it is a very tragic reflection of a organization where the hierarchy is more important, and it stresses a clerk enough to keep annoying a general and then be so affected by one moment of anger. He gets so stressed that he just goes home and dies out of all that stress. And all of this for a very accidental sneeze that could have been left unsaid. Yet he did make the effort to apologize and repeat his apologies, annoying the general, and finally getting stressed over nothing. It just shows that maybe some things you should just let it be and not stress too much about it. And also shows how much a person of power has the level of control and power someone in authority holds over someone who is a subordinate to them. Even though they don't intend to, the subordinate automatically believes it to be and is kind of caught up in the thoughts that just sneezing on somebody by accident out to create some big misunderstanding that could completely ruin his life, when in reality it is not. And that delusional thoughts of submissiveness is what actually brings him his death. It's a sad story.